Hello, I'm Tom. I'm a 66-year-old runner. Today's video is going to be about how fast or how slow we should increase our mileage and our intensity after taking a break from running. I'm going to approach this from about three perspectives. The first perspective is going to be about how fast should a brand new runner who's starting from zero after taking years off or never running, how fast they should increase their training. And second, how fast should somebody that has gotten over an injury and are beginning a comeback, how fast should they increase their mileage and intensity? And then finally, I'll approach this from the perspective of somebody that has just taken only a few days or maybe a week off from running at the end of a season. And how should they approach increasing their mileage and intensity? So, like and subscribe and enjoy the video. Thanks.
And off they go! St. Patrick's Day, the annual Lucky Clover 5K 10K Road Trail on the way.
Okay, I need to define a few things, just what is an increase in mileage, what is an increase in intensity. Mileage typically refers to your aerobic miles that you're putting in. And so you want to build mileage up slowly until you reach your particular goal mileage. Intensity has to do with hard workouts. And for us older runners, Jeff Galloway recommends basically one hard workout a week. Maybe that's a brisk tempo run workout where you're breathing pretty hard. Maybe it's intervals of, say, 4 to 6 times 400 meters or one lap around the track with, a couple of minutes of rest in between. There's a lot of different kinds of hard, faster workouts that you can do. And I do it. I do those hard workouts about once a week. I may experiment with doing them every 5 or 6 days, which is a little bit more frequent than once a week. For me, if I do a hard workout, I have to take 2 days off from running and then put in a easy aerobic run. So there's a little bit of a sacrifice that takes place for me if I put in a hard workout. That means I can't run for a couple of days. And I've learned the hard way that if I run too soon after a hard workout, then I'm at risk for injury. So I'll mention races as well. For me, if I run a 5K road race where I'm pushing, pretty much as hard as I can, that's going to require about 3 days off from running. So those are rest days. Those you should take into account when you're talking about intensity. One principle that you should consider when increasing both mileage and intensity is to avoid increasing mileage and intensity at the same time. You should begin with your aerobic miles. You should aim to increase those to your goal mileage over the course of, at a very gradual rate. And then once you've come close to or achieved your goal aerobic mileage, then you can start focusing on intensity. Start gradually. So, for instance, if your goal is to put in 3-mile tempo runs, don't start with 3 miles. Start with 1 mile, let's say, of run walking at a fast tempo pace. What is a tempo pace? I'm talking about something that is just under your anaerobic threshold. So a tempo pace would be where you are metabolizing lactate or lactic acid evenly, so you're not building up extra lactic acid, but you're just right on that threshold. So put in a mile where you're breathing pretty hard, but not building up too much lactate. Maybe start with that, with an easy tempo of run, walk, running. And then the next week, aim for maybe a 2-mile tempo run. And then the next week, perhaps aim for a 3-mile tempo run. That's a pretty quick build. Then when you feel like you've got tempo runs under control, then perhaps consider interval training, such as those 400-meter repetitions that I was talking about. And those shouldn't be all that fast. Aim for maybe 5K race pace, maybe 3K race pace to 5K race pace for those 400-meter repetitions. And even with those, start gradual with only a couple repetitions and then build up to 6, maybe 7 repetitions. And I'm speaking to older runners over the age of 60. Younger runners, they can handle a lot more, and their recovery time is a lot less, so they can handle a couple of hard workouts per week. Once again, I'm going to mention hills. As I've mentioned in previous videos, it's a good idea to incorporate hill sprints, probably at the end of your aerobic build. So you start out by increasing your aerobic runs until you reach your goal, and then before you start adding tempo runs and intervals and stuff like that on flat ground or on a track, begin with doing hills. And again, increase the hills very gradually and slowly. Maybe your first hill workout would be a single 8-second run up a steep hill, and that's it. And then perhaps 4 days later, do 2 8-second hill sprints with rests of walking back down the hill before you do the next interval. And then gradually, over the course of several weeks, go to 3 hill sprints, then 4 hill sprints, 5, maybe up to 6 hill sprints for older runners. Younger runners, again, can handle more than that. So once you've done some of these hill sprints, which, by the way, strengthen your running muscles and prepare them for the faster running that's going to be on flat ground, like tempos or interval training, do the hill sprints first to strengthen those legs so that they'll be able to handle the faster work. And again, doing all these things gradually. Start with low repetitions and then slowly over the course of several weeks build up until you reach your goal. The first perspective would be for the brand new runner. I like Jeff Galloway's approach to getting brand new runners started off, and especially with the run, walk, run method. Personally, when I started about 4 years ago, I used a variation of the Couch to 5K. I thought that was a little too intense, and mine took about 9 weeks and started from being completely out of shape for over 30 years of basically no running, building up to about a 30-minute run in the space of 9 weeks. It was too intense. I was awfully close to experiencing injury. In fact, I did experience a lot of aches and pains, especially since I was about 62 years old when I began this. I don't think it was the right approach for an older runner, such as myself. I would recommend Jeff Galloway's approach, his training program for brand new beginning runners. He has a great 8-week program that applies his run, walk, run method. His recommendation, and I totally agree, is that before even starting this 8-week program, you should be able to walk for about 15 minutes, 3 days per week before you even begin to add running. And also, you should talk to your doctor and get his, this applies especially to older runners. You should talk to your doctor first. So get your doctor's okay before you start this. Okay, first of all, you finish 3 weeks of just walking. Then you can start this 8-week program. The first week begins with just 5 minutes of run walking at a very low ratio of 5 seconds of running to 55 seconds of walking. So there's only a little bit of running going on with this 5 minutes of walking. Then over the course of 8 weeks, you gradually increase the ratio in very small of running to walking to very small increments and gradually increase the minutes run until by week 8, you're, if my memory serves me correctly, you're doing a run, walk, run for 25 to 30 minutes by week 8. So anyway, this is a very gradual increase of both mileage and of the increase in ratio. So it should be very manageable for somebody that's just starting from scratch, a brand new runner. And if I had to do over again, that's what I would have done. Okay, the next aspect of increasing your mileage and intensity has to do with those coming back from an injury. And again, I'll refer to Jeff Galloway. He has some nice recommendations for how much you should increase your mileage and intensity based on the amount of time off that you have had due to injury, ranging from just a week off, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, clear on up to a couple of months. I think he mentioned that if you've taken up to 3 months off due to injury, then you should basically start from scratch again, just as a beginner. And so that program for a brand new runner, a person that's taken 3 months off or more due to injury should begin at that point. And Galloway does say that if that seems easy and if you're not detecting any signs of aggravating this injury, then maybe you could up the intensity and the mileage a little bit quicker. And while I'm at it, I'll mention the 10% rule. The 10% rule, you've probably heard about it, refers to increasing mileage and intensity by only about 10% per week. If you're, in the process of either a new runner or a runner coming back from injury, I would qualify that 10% rule by saying that it applies to running specifically and not run, walk, running. I think you can increase your mileage more than 10%, clear on up to 20% or more if you're applying run, walk, running, especially with a low ratio. And I will use my recent comeback as an example. I just finished the 9th week of my own comeback back in early September. I took about 14 days off due to calf injuries, on and off, minor calf injuries, I would call them, not major pulls, that in both calves that have, during the year 2025, have caused me all sorts of problems. So I haven't been able to put in much running during 2025. And so I'm now doing a very conservative comeback, and which I hope will work to where I'll be racing again. I'm doing pretty good. I will mention that this right knee, which is an orthopedic surgeon recently diagnosed it as osteoarthritis, and he did give me the okay to run despite that pain that I'm experiencing. And he also gave me a referral to a physical therapist, and I'm going to take him up on that referral as well and get some appointments with the physical therapist for not just the knee, but stiff painful neck that I've been struggling with for over a month as well. And so we'll see what the physical therapists will be able to do to help me out there. Okay, I guess the important number over the first 8 weeks of my comeback would be the average weekly increase during this 8 weeks. And I calculated that I had about a 25% increase per week, definitely above the 10% rule. But again, the 10% rule applies to 100% running, whereas I'm doing the run walk. I'm not a mathematician, so I'm not going to add up just what percentage of an increase for the running at parts of this were, that's beyond me. I was an English major, not a math major, okay? So anyway, about a 25% increase over per week over the first 8 weeks of my comeback. And that, I think I'm handling that pretty good. And I recommend that you listen to your own body and definitely listen to what aches and pains you're experiencing if you're increasing your mileage and intensity after an injury. Oh, I need to mention the third build, and that is somebody that has just finished a season of running, and and this is part of their schedule. They've aimed for a peak race or a goal race that they've spent a few months building up to that race, and so they figure that race marks the end of the season. If you don't have too much an intense training schedule, then perhaps if you're like me, at the end of a season, I plan on taking 4 days off. Now, younger runners, especially high level runners, they quite often take a couple of weeks off of no running. That's because their training schedule and racing schedule has been incredibly intense, both psychologically and physically, high intensity. And so they really need a longer break from running than personally that I would need. My training is definitely not that intense. And so I just sort of, after, maybe a 3-month schedule of building to a goal race, I give myself 4 days off and then I start another build, focusing on another peak race maybe 3 months down the line. So there you go. That's my recommendation for older runners, that you don't need as much time off as younger runners that are running at a high level. Okay, that's it for now. Like and subscribe, and please leave comments. Let us know how you approach your increases in running. And I'll see you in about a week or two. Thanks.